r/ask Reddit. What moment made you realize that you are not a kid anymore? Having the we have food at home talk with myself. I once read that adulting is getting pissed at yourself for not defrosting the meat. Yes, I wanted to make wontons today but my stupid butt put the ground meat in the freezer yesterday instead of the fridge, so now I have to wait till tomorrow. Absolutely, I realized it when my thought process went from what do I feel like having for dinner to what do I have to eat before it spoils and I wind up wasting the money I spent on it. It's the spinach. You have to eat the bag of spinach you bought that you're definitely going to eat this time. Cut to a week later where you're tossing out the bag of spinach. When I realized I could never be fully relaxed because there's always some responsibility looming over me. If you already know this, then disregard. I just want to type this out in case someone suffers from this mindset. I did. This mindset has to be countered by purposely scheduled you time. There will always be shit to do. Always. Someone always needs that help or that work thing done or your presence at this event or this thing in the house fixed, etc etc. You purposely schedule to do something you want. Then you do it. Need 4 hours to binge video games? Put it on the calendar. Need 7 hours to drive to the trail and hike? Put that shit in the calendar. Need 2 hours away from the kids in a bubble bath? Coordinate with another adult. Drop the kids and chill the duck out in some bubbly goodness. You schedule everything else in your life, yet time for yourself seems to always slip by. Stop that. Schedule it. The work will be there tomorrow like it always is and always will be. It can wait. My first year of teaching, when we told the kids to get an adult if there's an emergency and I realized I was the adult they would be getting. I feel you there. Sometimes it just hits me that I'm the adult in the room and I'm responsible for everything. It's such a weird feeling. Sort of like a oh shit I'm the one in charge. Who the hell was stupid enough for that feeling? At least that's what I get whenever I have to look after my siblings. At work one day when I was 19, I heard a little girl ask her mom what's that man doing, and I turned to look at what man she was talking about and what the man was doing, only to discover she was pointing at me. WTF were you doing? Jerking off into a cereal box. When I saw forecast for snow and I was annoyed instead of happy. This is a great one. Kids see potential snow day and imagine all the fun a snowy day brings. Adults see shoveling it out of the driveway just so you can sit through a shitty drive to work. In high school a friend of mine worked at a laser tag place. He got a bunch of us in for free one day. In the waiting room we had a friendly trash talking match with some 12-year-olds about the upcoming game. One of them came back with "You're on. Kids versus adults." Note, we were all 18 at the time. I work as a retail worker, 18 tomorrow, and a lot of kids at my town recognize me as the man from the store. It really feels weird not knowing all of them, considering I knew everyone in town when I was their age. When some doctors or teachers are younger than me. The last time I was at the I slowly realized that all the medical personnel treating me were younger than me. I was really excited to buy a mop. From that moment on it all went downhill. I'm almost 40 now. Bought a new vacuum late last year. I'm still semi-excited about using it every time I do. It just works so much better than my old one. I got a new vacuum and was really excited, so I told my roommate's mom who was visiting. Her response? "You need to get a hobby." When my actions started to change a lot people's life. If I don't do shopping today I cannot cook for my wife and she would not have any food to take in the other day, and in the next day I will be working so no one will buy food, as an example. It's one thing if I only eat once a day, but the kids need 3 square meals and snacks, so mama does not get a depression day. Realized this when a Facebook friend of mine asked what depression meals people eat, and I realized even if I don't eat, I have to have the energy to fix food for 3 kids. When my mother died, I was 17 and the overwhelming sense of you on your own. No one is going to protect you or do things for you anymore felt like the sharpest transition to adulthood imaginable. I was 18, freshman year of university, living on campus. I totally agree. It felt like I was forced to grow up so much faster than my peers, even though we were all legally adults. I told my niece she needed adult supervision to do something and she looked at me like I was dumber than a block of cheese and asked why I couldn't watch her. You're not the sharpest cheddar in the fridge. Hot. When I was 19, I made a reference to one of my favorite shows from when I was 8-12, and a couple of 13-year-olds listening had no idea what I was talking about. I'm learning that those moments never stop happening. I heard a couple teens reference SpongeBob and I had to ask, wait, that's still on the air? To which they informed me it was celebrating its 20th anniversary. I remember watching the premiere episode. I ate a pack of fruit snacks without checking to see what shape they were. Gasp. When I found out I had to choose between dropping out of college and homeless, or going back to live with my abusive family, it really hit me hard that I didn't know what to do, but knew I had to do something. At the time, those weren't the only realistic options. But I was a kid and didn't know that. It took a lot of learning and making mistakes over and over for me to really understand that adulthood meant making it up as I went. I did end up dropping out of college initially to work full time and get an apartment. And now, 8 years later, I am in a way better place than the scared kid I was before. I see you. And I'm sorry you went through that. Duck all those people who bred without being fully prepared to love. Realizing that nobody knows what the hell they are doing. Everyone is just winging it. Asked a mate, one of the most well put together guys I know, if he had any adulting tips. Just came back with, if you ever find out, please tell me. Tips for adulting from an actual adult. I'm 51. Go listen to the Suncreen song by Baz Luhrmann. Everything you need to know about being an adult. I used to print out the lyrics and give them to my kids' friends when they turned 16. This past Monday actually, my neighbor has 3 dogs she constantly lets outside without leashes. We share a driveway that connects our 2 small backyards. I have an older dog. I went to take my girl out before work and she let her dogs out without looking. Her pit bull attacked my dog and for 20 minutes we couldn't get it off her. At the end of it, my dog was seriously mauled. I was bit on the hand and arm pretty badly and suddenly, I had to be THR adult. I had to know what to do. I had to delegate my so to take my dog to the vet, while I stayed behind to talk to the cops and get myself to the hospital. 26 years old, and let me just say, I hate being the adult. I don't think I've ever missed my dad's immediate ability to handle a situation as much as I did on Monday. Did your dog survive? How is your arm now? Yes, she did. She's a trooper. Lots of staples and sutures and a drainage tube in her throat, but she's healing. Her head and neck were badly torn up, but she's always been a strong dog. My arm is on the mend too. Following up with the doc on Monday to address potential nerve damage. Numb on a large portion of my wrist, arm, and my finger that got impaled by a tooth is numb completely above the wound. Wounds are closing well though and no infections. Genuinely appreciate the concern. When I lost my job, this was pre-corona, I realized that I treated my career like it was school, as if I would keep moving up automatically. It was a juvenile way to approach success, and I realized that if I wanted more from my life and career I couldn't just expect it to happen. I needed to hear this. Thank you. Just turned 19 and my mother passed earlier this January. No father figure to rely on. The transition from I'm going to school with friends to I'm working all the time just to not be homeless is a sharp one. The freedom is liberating and incredibly scary at the same time. I know this terror. It is not fun. That sink or swim sensation. Hope you swim. I was 23, no high school diploma, and a security guard doing access control at an ice cream plant. I realized that if I didn't get out of there and do something, I would be 50 in a flash, and not seen or done anything worthwhile. My life would have peaked at 20 and the rest of my time amounting to little more than waiting to die. Or mate, don't leave us hanging. Did you get out? Yes. Thank you for asking. I spent the next 9 months trying to get in the Navy. I had to wait for the start of the fiscal year, as only 5% of recruitment can be non-high school grads. But I got in. I became an aviation electronics technician. A couple years later I got my GED. Over a 20-year career I did 3 overseas tours, served on 2 carriers, visited a score of countries, numerous detachments and deployments, and more. Now, almost 2 years since retirement, I do troubleshooting and repairs on airport surveillance radar. It's been a much more interesting trip, with more still to come. I was driving my sister around and I pointed out to her a building that used to be a Blockbuster where my dad would take us to when I was a kid. Then I was crying inside at the fact that I said when I was a kid. I've been saying when I was a kid since I was like 15 lol. When I wanted to be put over the knees and spanked. True story, my first grade teacher gave all the boys birthday spankings in front of the whole class. 1983. Different times. It was the first spanking I actually enjoyed. When I'd fall asleep on the coach and my parents wouldn't carry me to bed anymore. Growing up is tough lol. I'm so confused. There's 2 directions my mind went, but the first one was this. The morning after my parents' divorce when I was 10, my father was an ultra helicopter / tiger parent. My mother was a neglectful abuser. We ended up with my mother, my siblings and I stood in front of the garage door for an hour before realizing our mother wasn't going to take us to school daycare. I ended up carrying my siblings to their respective locations before making it to my own school by lunchtime. I picked up bus sign-up slips that afternoon and was forced to forge my mother's signature for the first time to try and get transportation. Later that week I also was forced to forge free lunch slips for us all because no one was going to make us food anymore. This one broke my heart. When I was 18 and found out my first child was on the way, the impact of poor decisions was going to alter the life of someone beyond myself at that point. Since that day, I've never been unemployed. I've never not had a roof over my head for my child to call home. I've never spent frivolously and not been able to provide her with meals, clothing, etc. It was rough early on. We were poor, lived in some sketchy neighborhoods in shitholes to start out. I started my own business when she was about age 6. By the time she was 8 years old we moved into our first home. I ended up with custody a few years later after a divorce. Things became even more important to me to always make the right decision financially to ensure her stability. Unfortunately, the financial aspect was all I focused on and wasn't always a good father. End result. Today we have a shit relationship and this is my fault. This was really deep and sad to read. It sounded like you did what you had to do to make sure she had a decent upbringing. But hopefully there is something to mend in the relationship where there is love and compassion. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.